Hey, what's up guys, Riff here. So today we're going to be once again talking about Take Us North, which is essentially a piece of propaganda masquerading as a video game. We talked about it a month or two ago, so why are we returning to it today? Well, yesterday the developer, Anima Interactive, released a lengthy statement about the attacks they have been receiving over the past couple of months, including a direct mention of Asmongold, among other, as they consider, right-wing extremist YouTubers who talked about their project. Yeah, I guess I would know a thing or two about that. I just wanted to point out this funny post from Hero Hey. So apparently on Blue Sky, which is not a surprising place for this, myself, Kirsha, Leaflet, Hero Hey, and Pippa have all been identified as literal Nazis. But even more curious is that there's also profiteers and those promoting it, including the Mythic Team, Henya the Genius, Doki Bird, and even Iron Mouse. Yep, according to Blue Sky, Iron Mouse is a Nazi supporter. Can you believe that? Well, it's an insane asylum over at Blue Sky, so I'm not too surprised, but as always, this is basically just a big follow list, and why don't you, while you're at it, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe on this video to help boost it in the algorithm. So, let's just give a quick rundown of what we talked about last time with Take Us North. So, this was a project on Kickstarter that raised $61,000, went past its goal, and there's a lot of great rewards they offered, including a $5,000 reward where you could literally go visit illegal immigrants. And then they have their entire story laid out here, where essentially you are a part of illegal immigrants trying to enter the United States, and they're trying to humanize the migrant and refugee experience. And now, based on what we're going to read in just a second, this experience includes coyotes, the smugglers. They're going to try to humanize them as well. They actually confirmed that's what's going to be happening in this game. But of course, there was also connections to Wings Interactive, Sweet Baby Inc., Clever Endeavor Games, Microsoft, and even the United Nations. The usual suspects had a hand to play in this game's development, and a lot of people were focusing on Carla Reyes, which is one of the creators of this game, and not that long ago, she spoke at Gamescom trying to promote this game, and Asmongold shortly after would react to that video, and that's where a lot of the attention towards what has been dubbed the illegal migrant simulator began.
Let's get it.
My pronouns are she, her, and
shit!
Great. So I got a little intro. Thank you. My name's Carla Reyes. My pronouns are she, her, and yeah, I run a little indie studio called Anima Interactive. We're developing Take Us North, which is about migration across the U.S.-Mexico border. Which is obviously a very relevant and heavy-hitting topic, but that's why we found it important to talk about now, and I'll share a little bit about our behind-the-scenes in the development of this project, because it's very deeply rooted in research. Given how sensitive and complex and nuanced the subject matter is, we want to make sure that we are telling these stories.
Are they going to research the way that illegal migrants steal the identities of American citizens and then claim their benefits illegally? I wonder if they're going to talk about that.
So to conclude this introduction to this game, right after that reaction from Asmongold, other YouTubers, including myself, would also react, but mainly because of Asmongold's reaction, the entire project just blew up, right? Carla Reyes, she deactivated on everything, pretty much wiped her digital footprint, and then Anima Interactive deleted their Twitter account and even privated their own website. That's how scared they were of the attention. As pointed out by Smash JT here, ask yourself this: if they're so proud of what they're creating, why did they run and hide the second people discovered it? Very interesting. So this leaves us with today. What are we talking about today? Well, as I stated, there has been a statement made by Anima Interactive. So we begin with this email that was sent to their Kickstarter backers. Let's just read this part quickly, then we'll get to the full document. They say, "Dear friends and supporters," and skipping ahead, they say, "Unfortunately, as some of you may know, after our creative director Carla gave a presentation about Take Us North at Gamescom in late August, Anima Interactive and Take Us North became targets of an online harassment campaign by right-wing extremists For the safety of for our safety and the security of our team members and families, we had to make the difficult decision to step back from the public communication and minimize our online presence. So yeah, they're blaming the right-wing extremists, referring to people like YouTubers and just social media users generally, who had something to say about this very clear piece of propaganda that is being masqueraded as a video game. Now, this is where it gets interesting. There was an article written about this. It is now gone. They deleted it. The whole purpose was to say we're not being silenced, and well, they silenced themselves because once again, the second they got discovered, they nuked everything. But of course, the internet is forever, and there is an archived version of this post, which we're going to look at today. It is titled, Replacing Fear with Empathy. We are currently in the midst of Hispanic Heritage Month, a time typically marked by vibrant festivals and cultural celebrations, but this year some of that joy is muted. Following a recent Supreme Court ruling, many Hispanic heritage gatherings across the U.S. have been canceled as fear over immigration, enforcement, and safety concerns arise. These cancellations contribute to a pattern of cultural erasure that is pushing historically marginalized communities into the shadows. Now you have to ask yourself, why would people attending these sorts of gatherings be afraid of these immigration enforcement issues? Well, probably because they're here illegally, which kind of goes hand in hand with this entire project. But this is the probably the most important part, saying, I've come to know these shadows as well. In late August, Anima Interactive and I became targets of a viral online harassment campaign after giving a presentation at Gamescom, the largest video game convention in the world. A prominent streamer with a large right-wing following broadcast my talk to his audience, reaching millions of views. This escalated into direct personal attacks and doxing attempts, forcing us to minimize our online presence to protect our safety and security. Yeah, they are playing the victim on this one again. It's like the second a light was shined on them, they immediately ran away and blamed right-wingers, and in this case, they are very clearly directly calling out Asmongold. I'll ask you this, if you're not even right-wing and you had a problem with what they're doing, or you have some criticisms of Take Us North, please let it be known in the comments, because it's very welcomed. Okay, I'm sure a lot of people see through the propaganda that this sort of quote-unquote video game is actually about. But yeah, they are directly blaming Asmongold and right-wingers, because that's the only people, I guess, who have an issue with a illegal immigrant simulator. But we continue on. At the nexus of the harassment campaign is our project Take Us North, and blah, 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 blah. It portrays dangerous migrant groups in the world, including the Sonoran Desert, La Bestia, and the Darien Gap. And they also mention here, the experience invites you to walk in the shoes of border crossers, as well as a migrant guide, or Gaia, more widely known as a coyote. Another conspiracy theory proven true. They were trying to act like this wasn't going to happen, that you weren't going to actually try to play a smuggler, because that's what a coyote is. They smuggle people illegally into places like the United States. At minimum, they do it for a fee. They violate our borders and put people in the country illegally for a fee. At worst, they engage in human trafficking. So we're going to play that role in this game, or whoever plays this game, all 15 of them, will play this role. And as they describe earlier in this video that we saw on their Kickstarter, they're trying to humanize these groups. So they're going to try to humanize smugglers. They admit it right here. Crazy. But then they try to shield that narrative by saying, as a first-generation immigrant from Guatemala, migration is not an abstract political issue for me, which is very interesting because I found out that Guatemala, their Congress, about a decade ago, passed an anti-coyote law, particularly targeting illicit trafficking and smuggling of people by these individuals. So I don't think Guatemala is really down with the coyotes, it sounds like they have an issue with them as well, to the point where their Congress is passing laws targeting them. But we continue on. My commitment to this project is rooted in deep human-centered research. I've extensively interviewed migrants and asylum seekers, walked along their trails, and learned from ethnographers and anthropologists who've dedicated their lives to studying migration. So they admit and confirm what we already kind of saw in the Kickstarter project, that they are in fact interviewing illegal immigrants, which by itself is not something that is wrong. You can interview someone like that, but this is where it starts to get wishy-washy. Like, are they actually helping them with the process of doing what they're doing, perpetuating a crime, being here illegally? That's where things get wishy-washy, and you could actually get in trouble. But you are allowed to interview them. But that is something that was pointed out when people began talking about Take Us North about a month or two ago. But they continue on saying, our goal is not to be definitive, but to be dedicated. We're engaging in a documentary-style work by contributing human testimonies to a conversation that desperately needs more of them. Take Us North is designed to bring these personal stories into focus, inviting our audience to move beyond the world of divisive rhetoric and into the visceral moments of the human journeys. That sounds really impressive. I'm sure Sweet Baby Inc. would be really impressed by this word salad. It's really great, guys. Keep it up. So scrolling ahead a little bit, we got some questions that they're answering directly. Why is Take Us North a video game? So they say the word game may seem inappropriate for a project centered around migration, but games have evolved far beyond traditional stereotypes and can serve as strong drivers of community and connection. It's broken the traditional stereotypes of what a video game is? What did you mean by that? Interesting. Video games don't just tell stories. They ask you to hold their weight. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking every time I'm playing Dragon Age the Veilguard, games like that, or, Dustborn, or any of those. Like, I think about the stories they're telling and the weight we have to hold. I believe they're one of the greatest vehicles for empathy. Did iDubbbz co-write this? Amazing. One of Take Us North's fundamental design principles is to avoid abstracting the player from the emotional impact of migration. This requires a profound commitment to sensitivity. Yeah, well, you guys got sensitivity consultants helping you on this project, so I'm sure they're in good hands, like I just said. Ensuring we can convey some difficult truths without being gratuitous. The primary goal of Take Us North isn't for a player to win or lose, but to engage in an experience grounded in reality and confront choices, stakes, and sacrifices, what about the law, that reflect those of migrants and asylum seekers. We're carefully weaving real-world stories into the tapestry of the project, stories that encompass not just trauma, but a broad range of human emotion, moments of love, laughter, hope, live, laugh, love, and connection that persist even in the most challenging circumstances. We aim to honor the individuals behind the stories with integrity and dignity. Video games? This doesn't sound like a video game at all. You know what? They're right. They're kind of breaking the mold of what a video game is by selling you basically political propaganda. Very interesting, but they answer the next question. Does Take Us North condone or glorify human trafficking? Absolutely not. Firstly, it's important to distinguish between trafficking and smuggling. Human trafficking involves force, fraud, or coercion for exploitation, a heinous crime that our development team and the project denounce. Human smuggling, on the other hand, is the facilitation of passage for a fee, a consensual transaction. Wow, that's just great. Yeah, I'm glad the cartels out there can collect a fee to help violate our borders. So I'm glad we have the separation here. But I'm going to skip ahead because then they say, why step in the shoes of a coyote or gaia? Not all gaias are directly involved with the cartels. Through research, we've discovered that many migrant guides are simply people who, out of desperation or to make a living in a hostile economy, become facilitators. Again, at the very minimum, they're helping people enter a country illegally for a fee. at the maximum, they're also engaging in human trafficking. So there's sort of dichotomy here where they're trying to split up trafficking and smuggling. It doesn't really matter because coyotes do both. Like, they're trying to humanize this practice, which is very, very weird. Okay, I don't really know who came up with this idea, but it's not working in the year 2025. People are looking at this and asking questions, and I think that is fair. But then down here, they are asked the question, is Take Us North propaganda? Propaganda takes an easy path to a conclusion and makes sweeping statements on morality. In contrast, Take Us North embraces complexity rather than reducing it. The project explores moral ambiguity and provokes difficult questions rather than providing simple answers. This is storytelling as inquiry and not indoctrination. That's what people selling you propaganda typically tell you. They're the only ones who have to tell you it's not propaganda. If they're telling you it's not propaganda, it's propaganda. But I'm going to conclude here. I think we get the point, right? But this last paragraph, they begin by saying, the wave of harassment against us has been met by a powerful and humbling counter-current of solidarity led by artists, developers, and advocates across the globe. What about gamers? What about gamers? Who's the target audience? Is it to impress artists, developers, and advocates? Or to do what the mission's supposed to be and change the hearts and minds of gamers, the average person? Interesting. The intensity of this reaction proves we've struck something vital and reinforces why we do this work. For the people whose stories we're sharing, resilience is a through line. We will honor their journeys by continuing our own with Take Us North. And we will not be silenced. Okay, they were silenced. They self-silenced. They took down this article just one day after it was posted. The irony is palpable, ladies and gentlemen. The people screeching that we have so much support and that we won't be silenced are silenced really quickly the second anyone who is critical of them pays attention for 1 second. And that's what happened once again. And that is the update on Take Us North. Where this journey goes next, we'll have to wait and see. But for now, that's going to do it for this video. As always, feel free to share your thoughts about today's topics in the comment section down below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.